in the blink of an eye. So let's pull this out to 55 miles per hour, and you can see that the potential storm will be over Cloverleaf Landing at 5:18. That gives you 12 minutes to get in shelter. Stapleton, it would be to you at 5:25, so you have 19 minutes to get in shelter. Let's go and pull up the inbound and outbound wind flow on the velocity display. This shows us where the possible couplet is. That gives us where the tight rotation is located, and we have not seen a tornado warning in a few hours, not since the one in Washington County. So your possible tornado is right here where you see this bright shade of white. That's crossing Interstate 65 south of Saraland High School. So there's Saraland High School. That's exit 13 off I-65. Here's Industrial Parkway. Here's US 43. That's the I-65-165 interchange by Lee Street. So that would be exit 10. So you have exit 10, exit 13, and between that 3-mile gap is where you have a possible tornado that is tracking east at 55 miles per hour. No one needs to be on the roads during this, and then it's going to continue marching its way over into Baldwin County toward Gravine Island and Cloverleaf Landing, assuming it holds together. The possible tornado looks like it formed right over 8 Mile and is working its way to the east. So this would be just north of Viger High School and just north of Pritchard Stadium, and it would be just south of Saraland High School and Spartan Stadium as it marches its way east and crosses US 43 within the next several minutes. We have been watching straight-line winds that have been massive within this storm, but we have not been dealing with a tornado threat since the tornado rolled through Fruitdale in southern Washington County just before 3 o'clock this morning. Let's pull up the debris signature, and what that is it shows us if there's any debris that's been lofted up from the radar beam. And so it's known as the correlation coefficient. And on that, we're not seeing anything visible. That's good, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a tornado on the ground. So we're going to stay with this and monitor this very carefully over the next several minutes. So if there's a tornado, it looks like it would be right there. Strong low-level rotation is being reported by the Weather Service crossing I-65 around the south side of Saraland. Everyone there needs to take cover immediately. That's near exit 13 off Interstate 65. So this is where your possible tornadoes located based on the velocity couplet. Here's Saraland High School. This is Highway 158 Industrial Parkway. That's exit 13 off I-65. The tornado is rolling right near the high school, right near Spartan Stadium. Anyone that lives near Saraland High School, near that Walmart that's by that high school, needs to be in the lowest level of their home, away from doors and away from windows. That is the safe place that you need to get to. If you have a basement, that's great, but most homes down here don't have basements. We just got the new sweep scan, and now the tornado has already crossed I-65, and it looks like it is now past Saraland High School, but it's approaching US 43 near Sawmill Road and Industrial Parkway. That's the issue with these storms that are moving at such a rapid pace. They're able to just blow through in the blink of an eye, so it doesn't give you a lot of time to get in shelter and get into your safe place. But you need to make sure that you're there. If you know anyone that lives in Saraland or anyone now that lives on US 43 near Sawmill Road, you need to tell them to get in shelter right now. Here's some of the neighborhoods. You got Sutherland Drive. Anyone that lives north of that needs to be in shelter, away from doors and away from windows on the lowest level of your home. If you live in an apartment complex, you need to go and knock on your neighbor's door on the first floor and hang out in there until the damage passes. Weather Service just said there's another circulation developing near Chickasaw that's moving to the east. Let me pull back and take a look at that. So there's two circulations that the Weather Service is watching as of right now. One in Saraland and watching one right around parts of Chickasaw. So that must be this one. So there's two signatures. Let me circle these. You got this one here, and you got this one here. Those two that I've circled in gold are the two possible rotating signatures that the Weather Service is keeping the warning active for. And this one's just north of Viger High School, just north of Wilson Avenue. So you have a signature over Chickasaw and a signature that's just east of Saraland High School, both of which are blowing east towards the northern end of Baldwin County, toward Gravine Island. And if you watched our coverage early this morning, right around 3 a.m. when we had the tornado going through Fruitdale, the signatures were very strong. The debris signatures were strong. We just got a new sweep scan. And so let me pull back and take a look at where the highest wind threat is right now. Where you see these bright shades of white, that is where the radar is picking up massive amounts of wind, very intense amounts of wind, and that's a major cause for concern. The winds are screaming off the radar at 74 miles an hour. That's hurricane force. But remember, that's aloft. So if you go down, down to the surface, you're probably looking at about 65 mile an hour winds. That's still a strong tropical storm. That's the equivalent of a strong tropical storm rolling right over your community. So we are going to stay on the air with this. The Weather Service said they're also watching another circulation with damaging winds in excess of 70 miles an hour moving into Midtown Mobile and will spread toward downtown over the next 5 to 10 minutes. Major wind damage likely. We're even hearing it here at the television station as the squall line is approaching. And we are going to continue to stay on the air and monitor all of this in real time. The correlation coefficient is not showing anything at the moment. As far as the reflectivity, you can see the radar is showing just this nasty line that's marching its way eastward in a hurry toward parts of Gravine Island and Cloverleaf Landing. So even if there ends up being no confirmed tornado inside these storms, we're still going to be looking at major issues from the intense amounts of winds that are going to be showing up at about 70 miles per hour for most spots. As we go back to the reflectivity, you can see the storms are continuing to march eastward toward Gravine Island and Cloverleaf Landing, approaching downtown Mobile, approaching the Wallace Tunnel, approaching the Bayway, the Causeway, rolling over the shops at Bel Air, rolling over McGowan Park, which is right by the Fox 10 studios, Spring Hill Avenue, Davidson High School. It looks like this entire line has picked up speed because now it's almost moving in toward Theodore and Irvington and even impacting West Mobile. So here's what we've got right now is a major squall line is marching its way to the south and east. We have two tornado warnings that are now active, two of them. One that was for the tornado that was near Saraland, and a new one that includes downtown Mobile and the eastern shore, including Spanish Fort, Malbus, Loxley. This is a serious situation that we're monitoring this morning, and this is a situation where everybody needs to be in shelter. Whether you're in the tornado warning or not, the straight line wind threat is so significant, you need to make sure that you are without a doubt in shelter, in your safe place, and using extreme caution with this, because we now have two active tornado warnings. I'll pull it up so you can get a better look at it. You can basically see the tornado warning runs now from downtown Mobile into Spanish Fort, Bayfront Park, Malbus, Daphne, Stapleton, Loxley, White House Forks, and Gateswood are all under the tornado warning that runs until at least 5:45. So for the next 30 minutes, the Weather Service just said they're upgrading the wind speeds now to 80 miles per hour from this line of storms. 80 mile an hour winds, that is hurricane force winds where you see the shade of red, where you see the heaviest rain, that is 80 mile per hour winds rolling through. Now the only positive is that it's moving fast and it's not going to be over your area long, but when it shows up, it's going to be causing a major issue, a major punch, and you want to make sure you are doing everything you can to stay in your safe place. The first floor bathroom is the best place, or the first floor hall closet. If you have a helmet, it's a good idea to wear that because we see most fatalities in these storms from blunt force trauma to the head. So any helmets, football helmet, bicycle helmet, if you have one, put it on, and then within the next 20 minutes, you'll see those storms leaving your region. So please make sure you are taking this threat seriously. If you're just joining us, I'm meteorologist Michael White in the Fox 10 Storm Tracker Center, and we have paused Good Day Gulf Coast to bring you severe weather coverage for two active tornado warnings that are in the area from an ugly-looking squall line that is moving fast at 55 miles an hour, has already rolled through downtown Mobile and is now moving over Spanish Fort, Malbus, Daphne, Stapleton, and pushing off into parts of Gateswood. Everyone needs to be in their safe place, away from doors and away from windows, because we're getting reports of not just rotating signatures, but 80 mile an hour winds. So this is almost like a hurricane is rolling, the eye of a hurricane, the eye wall is rolling right over Mobile, right over Midtown, and right over the eastern shore. So this is a serious situation that we have to continue to watch. So these are the inbound and outbound winds, and the winds are just screaming in this situation right now. Where you see these bright shades of white, these are the possible rotating signatures, and when the colors are that bright, that means the wind speeds, the radar is even having a hard time finding the couplet because the winds are just screaming off the radar. That is why you don't want to drive through any of this. You want to stay off the roads. You want to stay in your safe place. The good news is this is not a long-lasting system. This is one that's moving very quickly. It's continuing to move at 55 miles per hour, and we're just going to stay with this. So anyone that's in downtown Mobile, anyone that's in Spanish Fort, anyone that's in Daphne or Loxley, and Daphne, even though technically you're outside the tornado warning polygon, this entire line is still headed your way, and you want to make sure you're proceeding with caution and you're not doing anything outdoors. You don't want to be outside doing anything. You want to stay in your homes, and you want to stay with us as we continue to monitor these storms in real time as they blow their way from the west to the east. We were hopeful we wouldn't have had any more active tornado warnings, but unfortunately that has not been the case. These storms have taken on signs of rotation. The weather services, they're going to keep the warnings going. We'll pull back up the velocity couplets, and we'll try to find debris. We have a feature on this called the correlation coefficient, where it can show debris being lofted up from the radar beam. And as of now, we're not able to pick any of that up, and I think that might also be because the straight line winds are so intense. The radar has a tough time finding that, but we're going to keep periodically checking. So I think the best image we can show you is just keeping this basically on what's known as reflectivity, where it just shows you the bands of rain. And this is it. And you can see you've got lightning, heavy rain, and 80-mile-per-hour winds continuing to track at 55 miles per hour. They've already moved over Saraland and Satsuma. So that means if you live in those communities, your severe threat's done. If you live on the eastern shore, you need to get in shelter now. If you live in Loxley, Robertsdale, Gateswood, you need to be on standby. If anyone might be sleeping because it's still early, it's 5:18 in the morning, please wake them up. Tell them that this is a serious situation. Some of you may have already woken up from either the storm, your phone, your weather radio alerting you to these warnings, and we're happy that you're watching our coverage because we're going to stay with you as these storms are blowing through, because this is a major issue. Southern Mobile County, the storms are now blowing into Theodore, Irvington, Grand Bay. We'll eventually dive in toward Biola Battery. Baldwin County, it's dry in Robertsdale, Summerdale, Fairhope, Daphne, but not for long. Loxley, you need to be in shelter. Spanish Fort needs to be in shelter right now, as does Malbus. Anyone near Spanish Fort High School, anyone near Rockwell Elementary, anyone near Daphne High School needs to be in their safe place, away from doors and away from windows. And make sure that you are taking this threat seriously as we continue to monitor all of this in real time. We just got a new update from the Weather Service on this tornado threat. The storm capable of producing a tornado is 7 miles northwest of Stapleton, 8 miles north of Spanish Fort. So that's from the first warning. The second one has the tornado located right over Spanish Fort. That's located right in right in the heart of Spanish Fort, just off the causeway, moving east at 55 miles an hour. That's what the Weather Service is telling us right now. Let's pause the loop. And so the possible tornado would be right near State Highway 225. So this is Stillwater Boulevard. This is the causeway right here. Here's Five Rivers. Spanish Fort Elementary School is right here. There's a Rouse's, Garrison Ridge, and then you got a whole bunch of subdivisions up State Highway 225. And your possible tornado is embedded inside this section of the line that is moving east at 55 miles an hour. So if you live near Jimmy Faulkner Drive, Timber Creek, the Eastern Shore Center, now's the time to make sure you are in your safe place and wake up. If you know anyone that lives in Steelwood, Timber Creek near the Eastern Shore Center, Malbus, get them in shelter right now. Everyone along 225 needs to already be there. You need to be there now. You need to wake the kids up. You need to get them into the lowest level of your home, preferably the first floor bathroom. The Weather Service says that the tornado is right over Spanish Fort, moving east at 55, and that would be from this line right here that's just off the causeway. It's taking on enough of a bend to where there's a little bit of an inflow, and then just to the south of that would be the tornado. So I think that is going to hit just north of Garrison Ridge and Rouses. If you're familiar with Spanish Fort, that's right at the end of 225. I think the possible tornado is going to be just to the north of that, and it's going to continue working its way toward D'Olive Street near Bromley, and it would be working its way up near Steelwood if it holds together. But for now, we're going to just continue to monitor this and stay with this because we have two tornadic signatures that are showing up. We just got the new sweep scan, and the new sweep scan shows that the possible tornado now would be more likely near Bromley, or it might be from this particular inflow here. Both of this entire section of storm is having a tough time indicating inflow. What you look for is almost like a curvature shape, almost like the letter C. And inside the C is where you find the inflow, and then to the south of that you find the tornado. But regardless, even if this line is not showing anything tornadic, it's showing 80-mile-per-hour winds, which is hurricane force, and all that's blowing east at 55 miles an hour. So let's pull back and show you another expanded look at the radar right now, so you can kind of see what we're looking at here within this line. Downtown Mobile, things are finally getting better for you. Saraland and Satsuma, things have finally started to improve for you as well. West Mobile, the severe threat is ending for West Mobile. It's ending for Chinchula. It's over in Lucedale, Citronelle, Leakesville, Washington, Clark County, Monroe County, anyone north of Evergreen. It's done. Your severe threat's over. You can breathe a sigh of relief. Everyone along the beaches, you'll be the last ones to get the severe weather threat. For those of you on the eastern shore, obviously it's hitting right now. And we're continuing to follow this with the Weather Service. We're watching the tornadic signature, which looks like is right around Highway 225 near Bromley Road. Let me pull up make sure I verify this on the velocity couplet that it's in this exact spot. I think it's going to be this right there, that band right near Bromley. So let me point this out. So here's Bromley Road. This is Highway 225. 225 ends near Spanish Fort Elementary and right at US 31, and that would be your possible tornado. It would be near Cloverleaf Landing, so that's about halfway from US 31 to I-65. If you've ever traveled up 225 to get to Bicentennial Park or places like that, you run through Cloverleaf Landing, the tornado would be in that area, and it looks like it would pass north of Spanish Fort High School. So this is Jimmy Faulkner Drive. Spanish Fort Middle School is also on Jimmy Faulkner Drive, but the tornado threat looks like it's going to keep moving to the east right around Bromley Road, where Bromley Road meets Jimmy Faulkner Drive. Looks like that's going to be the biggest threat of a possible tornadic signature. So that is a massive issue for us to stay with, and that's what we're going to continue to do in real time here on Fox 10. So if you're just joining us, I'm meteorologist Michael White and the Fox 10 Storm Tracker Center doing severe weather coverage for a tornado threat along a squall line that is punching its way quickly across parts of the Gulf Coast this morning. Looking at the correlation coefficient, we're not picking up any debris signatures. That's good, but the radar also may be having a very tough time finding that. So we're just going to stay with this in real time and go back and show you the radar imagery. And you can see that everyone behind that line, everyone that is north of Mobile, the severe threat is over. So that means if you have to leave the house at, say, 7 o'clock to get the kids to school, things should be fine at that point. And hopefully we'll get through this with minimal damage. That's something we'll also be talking about once the storms end, is where was the reported damage. Spanish Fort, it looks like things are getting a little easier for you. That's good. The worst part of the storms right now are right near Stapleton and Spanish Fort High School and Steelwood. That's just to the north of Timber Creek. So here's Malbus. There's Timber Creek. There's Spanish Fort High School. This is Jimmy Faulkner Drive. This is US 31. Rockwell Elementary would be right around here. It would be in this section of US 31 right there. And this storm is just to the north of that. And this is going to continue marching its way north and east towards Stapleton along this section of US 31. So here is where 31 and 59 merge. You know, Highway 59 takes you all the way down to Gulf Shores, and that runs you through Robertsdale and through Summerdale. And then when you get north of Bay Minette, they merge. When you get near Bay Minette, they merge right around Stapleton, 31 and 59 together, and it just turns into 31. So Stapleton, you are getting the worst part of that thunderstorm right now, and you're getting the 80-mile-per-hour winds as that continues marching its way to the east at 55 miles per hour. Everyone near the Causeway, everyone near Spanish Fort Elementary, the severe threat is now diminishing. The worst of it is over. That's the positive news. I told you it would only last just a few minutes, and things are finally improving in those sections. What we're also looking at now is the storms moving into southern Mobile County. Irvington, Theodore, Hollinger's Island. Beulah Battery, get ready for it. Baldwin County, Fairhope, get ready for it. Daphne, it's headed your way. But if you're in Spanish Fort, which was a place that was looking really rough for the storms, things are now getting better. It's still pouring rain and there's still lightning, just like we see in downtown Mobile, but the nastiest part of the storm is moving out of your area, and it's now up here right around Stapleton and just to the south of White House Forks, and is crossing US 31 and is going to continue moving its way to the east at about 55 miles per hour. And we're still monitoring this situation with the National Weather Service. We have a private chat with them, and they bring us these updates in real time. They are letting us know that is a damage update to the storm that rolled through Fruitdale earlier. We had a tornado warning go off before 3 a.m. For a tornado in Fruitdale. We're getting reports that there was a couple of oak trees toppled, a tree limb down on a neighbor's residence, also receiving reports of significant damage near Fruitdale High School. Several of the buildings have been damaged. A power pole has been snapped. So that's what we're getting from Fruitdale. As far as these tornado warnings, they will expire at 5:45. So they will expire within the next 20 minutes. But we're just going to stay with these. As long as these are active, we're going to stay with these in real time. And then when this is done, we'll take you back to Good Day Gulf Coast. But if you're just joining us, here's the line of storms that stretches from Bruton to Atmore to Bay Minette to Daphne, Grand Bay, and then down toward parts of Pascagoula. And we're on the air because of a tornado warning that is in play till 5:45. That includes the eastern shore all the way over to Gateswood. Anyone inside that red polygon has a chance for a rotating thunderstorm, and we have seen a couple of nasty ones this morning. One around Fruitdale, one that rolled through Saraland near Saraland High School, one that rolled through Chickasaw, and then we saw it roll through Spanish Fort on State Highway 225, and now it's been rolling right over Stapleton and is marching its way over toward parts of Gateswood. And if it holds together, we may see that warning extend into parts of the Florida Panhandle. But for now, it's only relegated to parts of Baldwin County. We have had a tough time finding the rotations on the velocity couplet. I think a lot of that is because the winds are so fierce and intense that the radar has a really tough time finding those issues. But the bright shades of white, where you see these bright shades of white, those are winds in excess of 80 miles per hour. Notice that is impacting places like Malbus. Notice that's impacting Stapleton. And all of that's continuing to march its way eastward near parts of Gateswood and near Alabama Highway 112. So this is an ugly looking morning. The only positive, if we can find one, is that this is getting us before a lot of you have to commute. So by the time a lot of you have to leave the house, this is all going to be over with, and that's a positive because the kids don't have to go to school yet. That doesn't happen for another couple of hours, so things are going to be much better by then. As far as the latest on the radar, we're just going to keep that up. You can see that it looks like this is transitioning more to a straight line wind threat. What I mean by that, as we pull this up on the radar, notice how the radar imagery is kind of taking on, if you think of mathematics, one of those greater than symbols or a less than symbol, or one of those reverse parentheses. So it sort of looks like that. When you see that shape on the radar, that means that where you see the shade of red, where you see the heaviest rain, it's bowing out. That means the winds are increasing. So as these storms are blowing over toward Gateswood, they may not be rotating, but they're moving in a straight line. And where they're moving in a straight line, they're showing up at hurricane force. They're rolling in at about 70, 75 or 80 miles per hour, maybe even greater than that. We have had reports of straight line wind damage. We've had reports of power poles snapped. You look at the camera on the bottom of your screen. That's Daphne. That's right there that's right here. That camera's located here, and they're getting pummeled right now with straight line winds, lightning, and heavy rain. That is where the worst of the weather is rolling through. Downtown Mobile, the one in the middle, it's improved for there. So that's not really a concern now. And then the one at the top, that's Battleship Park, and it looks like it's moving past that area. But Daphne, from those three cameras, are getting it the worst. Weather Service just let us know that they're going to let the tornado warnings expire. Remember, that will happen at 5:45. They're going to let the warnings lapse. So that means that in the next 10 minutes, we'll be taking you back to Good Day Gulf Coast. We'll resume the morning news program as normal, but of course we're going to continue tracking the storms throughout the course of the morning. So we're still going to be on the air. We're going to stay with you for the next 10 minutes doing severe weather coverage because of the active tornado warning that's in play for parts of Baldwin County, with a severe storm that's rolling over toward Gateswood and State Highway 112 that's moving east at 55 miles an hour. It is moving quickly, but notice it is surrounded now. Let me go back to the watch warning map. It is now surrounded by a severe thunderstorm warning. So the Weather Service agrees with what we were just talking about, the way the shape of the storm structure was looking, that it was transitioning more into a straight line wind threat instead of a rotating wind threat. And that is why they've now issued a severe thunderstorm warning. That's this shade of gold. That is where you have a straight line wind threat. But those straight line winds are showing up at 70 miles an hour. That's almost hurricane force as they blow their way through. And the Weather Service has peeled back the tornado warning to only include almost the community of Gateswood. That means Spanish Fort, Daphne, you're safe. Downtown Mobile, you're safe. Saraland, you're safe for now. All of that is over. Once that nasty storm has moved out, your severe threat for the day is done. But places like Atmore, Bratt, Pineville, Century, Jay, Flomaton, McDavid, Chumuckla, Cantonment, Molino, Allentown, all need to make sure you're still in shelter. Even though there's no tornado warning, you still have a massive squall line with wind speeds of 70 miles an hour that's about to roll right over your home. The worst place to be this morning would be either on the road or in a mobile home. We always emphasize on a severe weather risk day that you do everything you can to try to be in a foundation-based structure because of how fierce those winds are inside those mobile homes. We'll go back to the radar, and you can see the squall line is moving really quickly. The severe threat is over. If you're watching us in Washington, Clark, Monroe, Conecuh, Greene, or George counties, the severe threat is done for you today. It is over, and you can either go back to sleep or just start resuming your normal morning activities. For everyone east of I-65, the severe threat's going to continue for a couple more hours, but we're optimistic it'll be done for everybody by the time we get to 8 o'clock. Those of you along the coast, of course, it'll be impacting you last. Places like Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Gulf Breeze, Fort Walton Beach, you'll get the severe threat last. Downtown Mobile, things are improving for you. We're starting to see the storms exit downtown Mobile. Things have certainly calmed down here at the television station. We're not hearing the intense winds like we were, and the rumbles of thunder have gotten less intense as well. Spanish Fort, things are improving. You now have the heaviest rain and the biggest wind gusts rolling through Daphne and approaching Fairhope. The strongest part of the storm is rolling into parts of Gateswood right now. The tornado warning that is still active with that red polygon box is about to lapse within the next 10 minutes. It will expire at 5:45. The Weather Service has said they're going to let it expire, and that's great news. So once that happens, we will officially get ready to go back to Good Day Gulf Coast and resume the normal morning news program. But for now, we're just going to keep this on the air as this storm is rolling into Gateswood. Westwood, just to make sure that we don't end up seeing the couplet re-intensify, where you would have a rotating wind threat and those inbound and outbound winds. We don't want to deal with any of that mess, or hopefully we won't see any more of that this morning, but there's no guarantee because we were hopeful that the one we saw in Washington County around Fruitdale would be the last one, and then we started to see this. So we're not seeing any well-defined signatures in the inbound and outbound winds, but we see these bright shades of white, which represent just a massive amount of wind that's showing up inside these storms with the winds in excess of about 70 miles per hour. Remember, that's on the verge of hurricane force winds. So this is a major issue that we are dealing with this morning, and one that we just have to continue to monitor as we go in throughout the course of your day. So if you're considering leaving the house, you can leave the house if this line of storms has already rolled over your community. So if you live in Citronelle, or you live in Wilmer, or if you live in Tensaw, or if you live in Chatham, you can go to work. But if you do not, if you live either south of the line, if you work in Foley or Lillian or Seminole, you don't need to be on the road because those storms are headed that way. They're all tracking to the south and east and will continue to do so as the morning continues. We'll go through the future cast quickly so you can get a glimpse of that. So you see that's where the squall line's currently positioned. By the time we get to 7 a.m., which is in less than 90 minutes, it'll be along the immediate coast. Then by 8 o'clock, the severe storms move offshore, the sky begins to clear, and we start to see things improving tremendously. In fact, we are going to have a cold snap, but it's going to be a brief one. The temperature for the high, we have it marked in the mid-70s. Keep in mind, that's what we've got right now. We're going to see the temperatures falling throughout the day. We'll likely be in the low 60s by the time the kids get done with school. We'll be in the upper 30s tomorrow morning, but it's a one-day cold snap. Tomorrow, the high will be in the low 60s, and then notice we bounce right back into the mid-70s this weekend with scattered showers and morning temperatures recovering and bouncing back into the low 60s. So a very short-lived cold snap is going to be headed our way. Just got another update from the Weather Service. Let's read this. It says moderate instability will continue to support damaging winds and isolated tornadoes for the next few hours. Strongest winds will be associated with the squall line. Winds can be up to 70 miles per hour as the storms move across the region. They'll keep the tornado watch active for those locations. The only tornado warning we have is still for that one tornado warning that's going to be lapsing within the next few minutes for the storm right around parts of Gateswood. The rest of the line, though, is showing intense storms moving into Daphne, moving into Fairhope. So if you live in Fairhope or Point Clear, you have 60-mile-an-hour winds that are about to roll into your community with heavy rain and lightning. Mobile County, the big part of the storms are now rolling into Hollinger's Island, will eventually be marching their way south into Biola Battery and Dauphin Island. And everyone north of that is going to see their weather gradually improving with cooler temperatures and less humid air rolling through. Just got an update. This is from the news desk. They're letting us know that Alabama Power is reporting several power outages from all of these straight line winds. And unfortunately, that's been a cause of concern when you have winds of this magnitude. We were seeing our lights flicker here at the television station. Thankfully, we have generator power, but I know a lot of you might not, and you're watching us on the live stream, and we're very grateful that you are. But Alabama Power, apparently from our news desk, reporting several power outages as a result of these storms that have been marching their way through. And with hurricane force winds basically right over us, that is a major hazard with these storms and will continue to be that way for all of these communities that haven't seen these storms yet. So you want to be keeping all that in mind if you're getting ready to travel. If you live in southern Baldwin County or the Florida Panhandle and you need to travel, you can do so now. But if these storms are over you, you need to make sure you wait until they pass before resuming your normal activities. So as we approach 5:40, again, the tornado warning is going to be allowed to expire. The squall line has moved out of Mobile and has moved out of Spanish Fort and is continuing to march its way to the south. We still have an ugly part of the storm producing major wind threats rolling into parts of Pineville, Bratt, Atmore, Century, McDavid, Walnut Hill, Chumuckla Springs, Jay, and those are all moving essentially at about, I believe, 60 miles per hour. So it's still going to be a long morning. Even though the tornado threat from that storm that started in Saraland is dying, it's still going to be a long rest of the day as we continue to watch that line move to the south and east. Let me ask our producer, do we go to break or are we going back to the news desk? I'm not. Okay, they're finding that out. They're not sure. But we're getting ready to wrap up our severe weather coverage as this warning is going to be expiring. And we're going to go back to Good Day Gulf Coast. We're going to resume that. Now, during the show, Eric and Sarah are going to have updates on the power situation with Alabama Power. And we're also going to be continuing to update you on the squall line as it sinks to the south. Your time is 5:40. I'm meteorologist Michael White in the Fox 10 Storm Tracker Center. Thank you for watching our coverage. Please stay safe for the rest of the day. Good Day Gulf Coast resumes after you see this.